Hello, good evening, and welcome to News at 10 on TV3 and 3FM 92.7. We're live from the News Hub here in Accra. We're also streaming live on our Facebook page and on 3news.com. You can also watch us on your DSTV channel 279. Now, a summary of the major news items for the day. One person is confirmed dead and over 48 others arrested following violent clashes between some Zongo youth and residents of Anua in the Ashanti region. A joint military police team has been deployed to the area to maintain peace and avert reprisal attacks from the feuding groups. Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia says Cabinet has approved the Right to Information Bill, which will be laid in Parliament before the end of this week. The bill, when passed, is expected to ensure transparency and reduce corruption in both public and private sectors. Dr. Bawumia made the revelation during an interaction with a Norwegian business delegation in Accra. Also tonight, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, has petitioned the Office of the Special Prosecutor to investigate circumstances leading to the alleged fraudulent sale of some 1.8 million barrels of crude oil by the bulk oil storage and transportation company BOST. The petition was sent after COPEC held a press conference this morning. Elsewhere, Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa has released the names of hundreds of companies and individuals who failed to return $827 million illegally stashed abroad. Despite an amnesty after taking office last year, Mnangagwa gave individuals and companies 90 days to give up the funds. Those are our major news highlights. Remember, we're live on 3FM 92.7 and streaming on our Facebook page, as well as 3news.com. Up next is the big one. Welcome. Now, one person is confirmed dead and over 48 others arrested following violent clashes between some Zongo youths and residents of Anua in the Ashanti region. A joint police military team has been deployed to the area to maintain peace and avert reprisal attacks between the feuding groups. Here's a report by Ibrahim Abubakar.
48 persons have been arrested by the Ashanti Regional Police in connection with a clash that resulted in some residents sustaining injuries. Several property have been destroyed as a result of the violent clash. Residents say there has been a long-standing rivalry between the two groups, but they cannot tell what could have triggered the latest clash Monday morning. One person has been confirmed dead after sustaining severe machete wounds. Another person is in a critical condition at the Ankase Methodist Hospital. A team of police and military personnel has been deployed to the area to ensure law and order. Commercial activities came to a halt during the attack. Most schools had to close at 12 noon for fear of being attacked. The police is yet to brief the media on the current development.
And police in Kwabre are yet to identify what brought about the clashes between the Zongo youths and residents of Anua in the Ashanti region. This is according to the Municipal Chief Executive for Kwabre East, Nana Osei Esibe Bonsu. He spoke on News 360 earlier.
Similar thing happened about 1 month ago.
Yeah.
So we tried our best to resolve the issue. We brought together all the stakeholders at the ground and we were able to resolve the issue. So we're all thinking that everything was over. Till this morning, when we heard that it from the Zongo line went to the Ashanti line. Actually, we are yet to know what happened there. So there was a clash between these two people that resulted the death of one person, as was shown on our screen, and one casualty, serious one, who is on admission at the hospital. So we are yet to identify, or yet to know actually what happened between the two groups. So this one is different from the first one that happened almost 1 month ago.
So what is the state of security at the moment as we speak to you?
By the grace of God, we have the military and the police on the ground. They are monitoring the events. Everything is calm now, but we don't know what will happen tonight. So the police are on the red alert to make sure that the situation is brought under control.
But what have you picked up?
What I'm saying was that there was a confrontation between two groups, one from the Zongo line and another one from the Ashanti line. And that's where they met. You know, the two groups, the Ashanti, it's only one that a car, the lorry, the road is separating the two, the Ashantis and the Zongos. So they are very close neighbors. They've been together for a long time. So actually, we are yet to identify what brought about the whole crash. But something happened. That's what I was just saying. Something happened about a month ago. So we are yet to know what happened between the two groups which brought about this crash. And the police are doing the investigation to let us know actually what happened there.
Right, so let's do some discussion on this. We've been joined in the studio by security analyst and executive director of JTK Center for Human Security and Peace Building, Sani Adiba. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much. It appears that this has become a bit rampant and is still ongoing. What can be done to restore peace immediately?
Well, we cannot completely restore peace in the area, but we can manage the security situation to a very large extent. I mean, humans by our nature are in a state of conflict always. From what I gather, the simmering tension between the two communities has been festering for a very long time now. So the question is, what mechanisms have we put on the ground to forestall such incidents from happening? Indeed, the AU, the ECOWAS, and even civil society in the country have come up with what we call the early warning mechanisms or signals that are usually risk analysis of the risk associated with certain communities,
basically,
economically,
these all encompasses
socially.
Basic intelligence. Does it suggest to you that perhaps our security agencies have failed in properly utilizing intelligence to make sure, one, the tensions didn't escalate to the point they did at all, and perhaps they could have been able to nip it in the bud before it got that bad?
Well, intelligence, I must say, is a very important factor, but it's not constricted to just that. We take into consideration some economic and political factors, of course, in the area. It's basically, like I said, a risk analysis of the situation. The good thing about it is prevents loss of human life, and the economic and material impacts of such activities or violence is usually mitigated to a very large extent if they happen in any case. So I think it's important. I mean, this should be a wake-up call to us. Usually when you send boots on the ground, like the military or the police, they only succeed in stopping the belligerents, but that doesn't mean peace has been restored, okay? Our tactics over the years has not been sustainable. So I think it's important it goes beyond, like I've always advocated.
I mean, I've always seen, the tactics I've seen in some of these, management of these is to, one, putting in place a curfew, put in place a joint military police team, patrol a few places at night and put a few stops here and there. But these things don't help. It appears that we're affixed to these same old rigid tactics, which haven't helped anywhere. It haven't helped in Konya, Lavagno, and other places as well. So, well, do you think we should revise the approaches?
All over the world, there's a standard protocol that we follow anytime there's disturbance in any part of the country, and usually involves putting boots on the ground, putting state of emergency in place, like you indicated. But these are only interim measures. I mean, they are short-term measures that is basically aimed at bringing the belligerents to a halt. Then you can have civil society organizations, international governmental and non-governmental organizations coming in to take a closer look at the nitty-gritties of the matter. The fact that you see two people fighting and one claims he stepped on my foot doesn't mean the stepping on the foot caused the fight. I mean, when you take a closer look at it from a conflict analytical perspective, taking into consideration some theories associated in that, you can sometimes tell that it goes beyond that. It's usually a culmination of some socioeconomic and geopolitical factors.
Are you worried that this could get? Are you worried that this could get worse?
Indeed, the threat is very real. I've spoken with some people on the ground, and I must indicate.
What are the thorny issues? I mean, you said that you gathered, and now you're saying the threats are real. But what are the threats, and what are the key issues?
The threats usually involve the proliferation of arms, because if the people in the communities cannot trust the security agencies to defend them or to protect them, usually in the quest to defend themselves, they also take the laws into their own hands.
So you think the residents are gathering arms?
From the information I am gathering, I mean, the alleged
they are preparing to protect
they are preparing,
themselves.
and I think it's important we put the proper mechanisms in place. We should give credence to intelligence gathering, so at least would get it mitigated to a very large extent. But let me also indicate that without the cooperation of the people,
you said a lot of things, and I want us to break it down. You said that we should put the correct mechanisms in place to mitigate it. What are these mechanisms?
Like I indicated, we have some short-term and long-term mechanisms. The short-term would be to put some fruits on the ground.
They're doing that already.
Yes, but in rare cases, when situations seem to be flaring out of control, then you can have a state of emergency put in place. We should also give credence to intelligence gathering. We should involve the people of the area in addressing some of the challenges faced by the people. When you go deep, I mean, this has got to do with especially youth unemployment, the fact that some people feel disgruntled, the fact that some people feel victimized, the fact that some people feel they cannot trust the security service to protect them. So by harnessing all of these challenges, I'm sure we should be able to do a good job.
I know that it might be too early to, for example, call for the setting up of eminent committees like the one headed by Otumfuo and all of that, because when these things happen, we set in motion gradual approaches to resolving them. Should we wait for it to get bad before we get heavy-handed or
you see, if we wait, it has the tendency of spiraling out of control. It will become widespread, and we might be presented with a much more complicated situation than we can comprehend. So I think it is time we act now. So some 1-2 years down the line, we wouldn't bite our fingers and ask ourselves where we went wrong.
Sani Adib, thank you very much for coming. Sani Adib is security analyst and executive director of the JTK Center. I'm Stephen Enti, and you're watching News at 10 and listening to us on radio 92.7. We're streaming live on Facebook and on 3news.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, has petitioned the Office of the Special Prosecutor to investigate circumstances leading to the alleged fraudulent sale of some 1.8 million barrels of crude oil by the bulk oil storage and transportation company, BOSS. The petition was sent after COPEC held a press conference this morning. We have in the studio the Executive Director, Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Amoah, joining us in the studio. Ms. Amoah, good evening and thank you. We're grateful for it.
Good evening and good to be back here.
It's been quite a very hectic week for you, following from the allegations, and now you're petitioning the special prosecutor and all of that. Can you confirm to us whether you have indeed sent a petition to the special prosecutor on these allegations?
I can confirm that yes, we have indeed petitioned the special prosecutor. Ghana would have to be better off than it currently is. If you wake up to hear that the country needs money, and then you also hear other stories of money being thrown away cheaply, you would
Is
get
that how
worried.
you see what happened?
Indeed.
Money thrown away cheaply? Because we've heard from BOSS suggesting that it's not unusual to give discounts to the extent they gave the discounts, and so that cannot be necessarily said to be causing financial loss to the states, really.
Indeed. If you do listen to BOSS, just like happened in the contaminated issue, nothing is done, nothing untoward. They would defend even when the issues are quite obvious and quite telling. We have said that at a time when prices are going up.
So you mean they're not being truthful?
Indeed. If I took that decision, I would defend it. But as to whether it is going to bode well for...
You don't want to go into the nitty-gritties of whether they're being truthful or whether they're lying.
Oh,
whether
indeed.
they're
As for
misrepresenting
inconsistencies
facts.
and lies, a lot has been peddled. Indeed. One of the reasons they gave for selling was that the crude was going bad in 8 months. Then we revert to say that crude can actually be stored for as long as almost 200 years. Then they depart from that, and on Friday come back with another statement that says, indeed, they sold because of FOB, CIF dynamics. But then again, that is also difficult to accept when you know of these transactions and you know what in-tank transaction, what ex-tank transaction, what a CIF, what an FOB transaction is. What was occasioned at Tor was simply an in-tank transaction. Tor is not pumping the product out onto a vessel for BB Energy to load anywhere. And so the product continues to sit at Tor. It is not an ex-tank situation where product is already in tank and you are pumping back out for BB Energy to take it to wherever it wants to take it to. So there is an in-tank situation, and we are quite certain in our minds that for that kind of situation, when you know very well that Tor is not going to be able to pump out the reverse flow, you could only have that as a local trade. But unfortunately, they are saying that BB doesn't even need a license. We followed discussions on this issue even on Newsfile last Saturday. We heard the famous Kweku Baako suggest that per documents available to him, BB Energy was applying to NPA in December for a license almost 3 months after it had undergone that transaction with Bost.
So long and short is that you are convinced that you have the relevant evidence to take this to prosecution.
Indeed, we are quite convinced, just like majority of Ghanaians are, that something untoward might have happened in this transaction. We are quite convinced that some other motivations might have been at play in this transaction.
Selfish motivation, corrupt motivation.
It could be a lot of
individual gain motivation.
Yes, because if you look at, I have cited a situation where even in Ghana, when fuel prices are going up, you drive to a fuel station and it tells you it doesn't have fuel.
So what are your expectations from
the special prosecutor
yes,
would delve into this and do a thorough job. Of course, if the special prosecutor, one of three things might come out to affirm our position, might come out to affirm some of our positions, or might affirm Bost completely.
But it's not affirmation you want. You want prosecution.
Indeed.
That's why you want
affirmation of our position would mean that something untoward really has been occasioned. Some of our position might also mean that indeed there was some relevance in the issues we had raised. Affirmation of Bost would only settle some of us individually, and for that matter the country, that Bost is indeed working in our interest. As I speak to you, you and I are still funding Bost to the tune of 3 pesos every litre.
You're not satisfied that the Parliamentary Select Committee on Energy has begun investigations into these allegations?
Indeed. We think that the President himself believes the special prosecutor, and we would also want to believe that the SP will do a much thorough job. Will be able to provide us.
We'll leave it here. Thank you very much. I wish you the very best with this. Ghanaians want to see the very best utilization of our resources. This is News at 10. Let's move on to some other stories. The Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, says Cabinet has approved the Right to Information Bill and it will be laid in Parliament before the end of this week. The bill is expected to ensure transparency and reduce corruption in both the public and private sectors when passed. Dr. Bawumia made the revelation during an interaction with a Norwegian business delegation here in Accra.
At the 61st independence celebrations, President Akufo-Addo stated his government's strong commitment to lay the Right to Information Bill in Parliament before it rises for the Easter break. Already, Some rights to information campaigners have since then mounted pressure to get the bill laid before Parliament. The Cabinet has now approved the bill and it is expected to be laid before Parliament this week. Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia was confident the Right to Information Bill will ensure transparency and accountability.
Cabinet has given approval to the Right to Information Bill to be laid in Parliament for debate and approval, because it is very, very critical that we pass the Right to Information Bill. It is our hope that this will be an additional feather in our cap in the fight against corruption.
Other civil society groups are expecting Parliament to work on the bill before it rises for the Easter break.
The Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, ACEPA, says he's doubtful the Right to Information Bill will be passed before the House rises on Friday. Speaking on News 360, Dr. Rashid Draman maintained the RTI is not an ordinary bill that should be rushed.
I believe it will be laid before Parliament, but I think we are not going to get it passed. I don't think so, because even if it goes under the certificate of urgency, it will take some days. And if you look at the number of days that are left before they go on recess, it doesn't look possible. I understand the push by civil society organizations, and we shared those concerns as well. Particularly, as you indicated, this bill is almost close to 2 decades and dragging. I know there are a number of issues that are of concern. If you listen to the speaker, with the speaker over the weekend at a program, and I think his concern relates to the fact that there are challenges in terms of the coverage of where information should be accessed. He thinks information should be accessed not only from public officials, but also from private and international organizations that do business with public officials. This is very important for the fight against corruption, but I think it is not an ordinary bill that can be rushed through Parliament. I think now we have the momentum. We should give Parliament enough time, hopefully maybe when Parliament reconvenes after the recess.
On the police investigator in the case involving 4 persons, including a police officer accused of robbery at Nungua, Detective Sergeant Wisdom Dometi has denied accusations that he tortured the suspect before he signed his caution statement. 4 persons are standing trial, including a policeman, Lance Corporal Raymond Amegashi, who is accused of being a member of a gang which attacked and robbed a supermarket in Nungua.
Detective Sergeant Wisdom Dometi said when the suspect, General Lance Corporal Raymond Amegashi, was asked to write his own statement, he refused and asked the investigating officer to write it himself. After the statement was written, he, the investigator, made an independent person read out the statement to the accused person in order to authenticate his pronouncements. But lawyer for the accused person, Paul Asibia Bariga, told the court that was not the case, but the accused person said he was not given an opportunity to write his own statement and was forced to sign it later. Counsel for the accused, Paul Asibia Bariga, stated the statement, which was stamp-printed by the accused person, was not done by him willingly, but was forced to do that because he refused to sign. The investigator, Detective Sergeant Wisdom Dometi, said he did not read the content of the second statement. Presiding Judge Aboaje Tando did not take it kindly, insisting as the investigator on the case, he had no excuse to tell the court he did not read the statement. Counsel wondered why the accused person did not show inability to write the statement himself but was done on his behalf. Lance Corporal Raymond Amegashi told the court in a previous sitting he was forced to sign a caution statement which did not come from him and which the court is yet to establish. Sitting continues on March 20.
And that's how we'll wrap up with news at 10. I'm Stephen N.T. Thank you very much for making time. On behalf of the crew, good night. There is more news at streamers.com.